All right. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to have a conversation today with Christian Vargas. Christian, as you probably know, is Starkweather's lead designer, longtime YM design veteran. I think, Christian, how long have you been working on that platform?
I have been working in that platform, I would say now about almost 8 years, if not more.
Okay.
I started with support and then went into design. But yeah, about 8 years now.
Okay. So 8 years, and he's been with Starkweather now for 2 years, and we're so excited to have him on our team. In today's coffee chat, we're going to talk about a couple subjects. One of which, of course, as all of you know, I love understanding what makes people passionate about what they do, because to me, it's the passion they bring to the job that makes them just so brilliant at what they do. The second thing we're going to talk about today is GA4, which everybody hopefully has seen all the emails we've been sending them, YM has been sending them, Google has been sending them, that GA4 is the new Google Analytics standard. And Christian's taken a deep dive on that. And he's going to tell us, a couple things. One is why he's passionate about what he does with design, and why he's interested in GA4. And the second is, what are three things that association executives need to know about GA4 as we come into it. So as always, we're going to step through this conversation. It's us, it's two guys talking, so who knows where it'll go entirely, but that's what we're going to try to do. So with that, welcome, Christian, and thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So let's dive right into this. Why are you passionate about design? And what do you find interesting about the relationship between design and GA4?
So design. I have always had a thing for designing websites. I think my first dive into it was maybe about 10 years ago when I had almost a internship managing a website. I never knew I wanted to do web design. I never, I was in that era where I wasn't sure where I want to go, what did I want to do, and I took an internship to manage content on a website. And I did it for 6 months, and I probably fell in love with design and how everything worked and content management. And that's when I went to started pursuing that avenue of education and work. Um, just the reactions, how things are changing in terms of website design. What was once in terms of what a good website design was 5 years ago versus what it was now. It just keeps constantly changing. And that kind of, I have like a hunger for knowledge. Like I like to learn new things. I like to learn more and more and more. So for something like design that changes every year and goes with, what's working now versus what wasn't working last year, seems like something that's constantly changing in web design. So it makes me want to know, like, okay, this year what's going to be new? What's going to be the thing that drives design? And recently, for the most part, it's been more of a mobile responsiveness, because over the past 5 years, we've gone to, looking at websites more on our mobile devices versus, on a computer. So that has been one of the main things, driving what's a good website, if it's mobile responsive.
Mhm.
And, tying that in terms of design and stuff like that, what, hero images, how much of a role that plays on a website, what content you want on a website, on a homepage, and stuff like that. Just all of that information kind of intertwining together to kind of create this user experience, to where someone wants to come to your website, wants to come to look for information, and it's easily navigation, could navigate through a site, and find information easily.
Mhm.
And I think another part of that, what kind of drives me to, do designer, is the reaction clients get after a new site comes out, or we design a new site and build a new site. Some I think in all my years in being in this field, it still doesn't get normal to kind of see how people react to their new website. It's always a good feeling when you design something for someone, they see it on like a mock-up, and then when they actually see it on their live site, they're like, "Oh, this is so awesome! We like the way everything comes out." It's like it comes to light, and just to
Mhm.
have that interaction with someone when they kind of go onto their new website, to see their new website. Oh, look at it on their phone. It's completely mobile responsive. All
I
this information is in your hand. That kind of interaction, or that kind of end result is kind of one of the other reasons that I like to do design and design stuff.
Well, and that's so fun. And you and I were just talking today about the Nina site you launched this week. I mean, it's a gorgeous site. It really supports their mission. And it's that, again, it gets back to that emotional response. You are making somebody happy and you're making their lives easier. And in the case of Nina, of course, we're supporting, 9/11 operators and telecommunicators and folks who are on literally the front line of supporting and helping people. Yeah, I'm with you. That emotional lift. Wow. Yeah, that's a great reason to come to work every day. Well, and so let's dive into another topic. And I'm just trying to be mindful of time. I usually, like I've said, I try to keep these to 9 minutes. Sometimes, people who watch these know I kind of get outside of the boundaries a little bit. GA4. I mean, GA4 is a big deal. It's impacting everybody. What are the implications for not only design, but then our customers and understanding kind of how things are working for them?
All right, so with GA4, I mean Google Analytics in general, how that plays a role in design or with design, and it plays hand in hand. What works in terms of your homepage? You want to figure out the statistics on what content drives people to your website, what makes them want to go to different pages or where they go from your homepage. And that's where Google Analytics comes in, just to kind of dive into statistics. How many people have hit the website, how many people have gone from the homepage to a subpage, how many people have spent a certain amount of time on your homepage, and all that kind of gives you an idea of what you need to have on your homepage, and in terms of what the design needs to be in terms of all the content and stuff that's on the homepage. So that's how that actually plays. I mean, it's very important to understand how design and how statistics or how the user statistics play a role in each other. And it is a big role that they play. They go hand in hand in driving traffic and marketing to your actual website itself. To step into GA4, GA4 just launched this year, and it's taken a drastic change in terms of how they're managing or how they're tracking site visits to your site or actions for this. GA4 tracks actions too. It's not just visits to your site. What we had before was universal analytics, which is the regular Google Analytic code. And how that has differed from GA4, there's a lot of things that makes it more easier for you to get reports, see what happens on specific pages and stuff like that. And from what I've learned from GA4, it's going from a landline phone to mobile, like a Android phone or an iPhone. It's like taking a huge step into what more you could do in terms of tracking and reporting on websites.
Interesting. So when you think about what a lot of our clients are trying to do, they're trying to, maybe have a campaign for event registration or promote a new service or some new content that they think will be valuable to their members. Does GA4 give them more granular information to understand, hey, is the campaign working? Is it not working? What can we tweak? What's the relationship there?
So it does, it does give you one of the main things, and what I think was very interesting in terms of the changing in the old Google Analytics versus GA4 is the way they actually track your movement on a website. Before, it was a session-based tracking. So what that means is that it would track how many users go to a website in a specific time frame. With GA4, it does three different things in tracking. It tracks actions now, and it doesn't only track by session in terms of a time frame. It actually it tracks the way you move around the site, what you click on, your events and actions, and that's what it uses as in terms of what it reports to the actual Google Analytics platform or Google Analytics 4 platform. Before, also the way they tag users is another way that they've changed. Before, they would rely heavily on a device ID. So if you were on a computer, that's how they would track you as a user on a website. Now they have 3 tiers where they go through, where they track one by one by one. So the first thing they do is if you have a website where it's, let's just say like YM, a member only website that has member ID, you could actually feed that information to GA4. And what it will do is look for that ID and register that as a specific user. So if
Wow.
that ID was to go onto your website on a computer and then go onto a website on their phone, instead of registering two users, it registers that as one because it's recognizing it as that user ID, which in terms gives you better statistics. It
Right.
doesn't, it gives you a more redefined number of how many people are actually hitting your site. So that's the first tier. The second tier, it uses what's called Google Signal. So like if you're on Chrome and you sign into your Google account, you'll notice that, once you're browsing in Google Chrome, it registers, your actual like Google account, your Google Gmail. That's what Google Signal is. So then it uses that as a second tier to track your movement on a website.
Wow.
And it tracks you by your Gmail. Then after that, it goes back to what the old Google Analytics used to do, which is tracked by the device ID. So before where we had one way of tracking a specific user, now there's three different tiers, and it goes through each one of them to kind of give you a more specific, a more defined number in terms of how many people have hit your site, how many people
Wow.
did action and stuff like that.
So that's fascinating. So theoretically, if a member comes to a site, they're looking at an event and maybe they don't register, but then maybe they come back later and they're looking at, now they're looking at the agenda and you see there's interest, but they haven't pulled the trigger yet. Theoretically, you could then target a campaign to those members saying, sign up now. There's,
Exactly.
discount, there's, whatever it is, get a free hat for the next, something to compel them to actually go through the process.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes it so much of a powerful tool. It really does give you an idea of what users are doing, what they're doing, where they're stopping, why they're stopping there, what could push them to want to do more, or, if they're getting lost. In certain pages or information, or like you said, for events, they're getting to a certain point where they're gaining interest, but not really. Then oh, this is something that we need to kind of push forward or
Right.
kind of jump on.
Wow, that is really powerful. It's going to be fun to have follow-up conversations on this, just as we advise our clients and we share what we learn, with their audience out there, with their friends who are watching. That is fascinating. So my timer just went off, and of course that's how it goes, right? We start talking and bam, all of a sudden it's like, the 9 minutes are up. When you and I had chatted, I said, are there 3 takeaways that we could give our association leaders, in this conversation? And we probably didn't schedule enough time for that because this is just incredible, just the detail we've talked about right now. What are a couple of takeaways? If you have 3, great, but what are a couple of things that our association leaders should know based on what you've learned so far?
Well, with GA4, it gives you, I don't want to say 3 specific things, just in general, GA4 is a more powerful tool. It gives you more control of your clients that you want to target. It gives you more control of the actions that you want to see on your website in terms of, turnovers, because it actually also does that too. It tells you what was clicked on a specific page, what action. I mean, it's all around a more powerful tool. And I am all for applying GA4 to a website because it gives you a better understanding of how much your website is playing a role in your organization or in terms of your marketing and stuff like that. So for me, I mean, I can't tell you 3 things to take away, but what I can tell you is GA4 is definitely going to make reporting and making marketing campaigns and stuff like that a lot easier task, or a lot more, not easier in terms of, what can be done and stuff like that, but in terms of understanding what's actually happening on your website or apps, because Google Analytics 4 does that too.
Wow.
I track here, Google Analytics before you have 2 different ways to track who comes on your website on a mobile on your website and versus an app. Google Analytics 4 now combines that actual statistic together.
Holy,
you don't have to do 2 things no more. It's all together now. But that's a different topic altogether.
That is fascinating because so many of our clients, they have apps, they have the website, they obviously want, and we provide great, the mobile, the mobile responsive experience. With that, we should wrap up. I just want to say to everybody, I mean, there's so much more here to this topic. We're happy to talk about it. Click one of the links to schedule some time with me, and we can arrange for a consultation. Obviously, this is what we do. Christian is passionate. I'm passionate about making sure that you guys are able to serve your members. This is some really fun stuff. So thank you, Christian, for your time today. Really appreciate it. Obviously, we are so pleased that you're a core member of the Starkweather team. And to everybody else out there, have a great day.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, Christian. And we will, I'm sure, continue this conversation.
We will.
All right. Thanks. All right. That's done. We'll let him edit it. Excellent. So exciting. You got my brain buzzing. And this is, I have to say that I loved when I got to get into the technical weeds. I loved it. And now I've got, you and people smarter than me to do it, but it's fascinating, these opportunities. And so we'll put this out and, see what it generates. Because, my goal is to keep you as busy as you want to be. And I know we're going through, some restructuring and frankly, it's making us healthier from a, operational and financial standpoint. And that's really the key, because we want to grow, and you don't want to build a house on rotten pilings, right? So so we're getting that stuff squared away, and I'm really pleased with just the support that you're providing, everybody's providing. But ideally, let's just get this out there and generate more work.
For sure.
Like I said, to whatever extent that you want, right? I don't want you to ever feel like you're getting buried. I want you to have a life. But
for sure.
Good. All right, sir. I'm gonna wrap this up and then turn it over to Jessica, and then off we go. But so pleased. And did you like the GA4 stuff? It seems like you liked it.
I'll tell you what. Even though it took longer than actually expected, when I started, I didn't realize how much tracking it actually does. And when in the first amount of like going through sessions and stuff, I was like, this is kind of scary, like how they track stuff on your site. Like, I didn't know it was like this intense. But then, you start to understand why they do it, how they do it. I mean, and they do have they say it over and over and over again in the sessions that they're not breaking any laws, they're abiding by, privacy and stuff like that. Like, they keep repeating it. Because, like I said, it does sound kind of scary how they're tracking every single thing that you do on a site, and what they're using to track you. But no, it's interesting to see. I mean, I always thought, like, when I think about tracking a website, all I think about was hits on a page. That's the extent of my, what I thought tracking was. And our older Google Analytics, like our Universal Analytics is what they call it, did that. To an extent, and they took it a step further. With GA4, it's like, oh, we're doing all this stuff. We're tracking actions. They even they have, which was interesting to me, which I think is what's going to be one of the main things for clients. They have an action called new users. So if they've registered all three of your member ID or your Google Signal and your device ID, and they don't see that in their statistics at all, they put that in a separate group called new users. So you have where you could see who new users are and target that actual,
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's huge.
Yeah, and I thought that was going to be one of the main things. Like, oh, you could recognize who's new users, and target them. I mean, you couldn't do that before because, it was session based, so everyone was a new user. But this time, if you give them like your member ID or your registered your Google Signal, then it recognizes you as not a new user no more, but a second time. And that's also another thing. It kind of gives you reports on if you come back a second time to the site, what did you do on the second time, or if you took it a step further and went further than what you did your first time around. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
Wow. That is fascinating. All right, we'll have to dive into this some more. I think the whole team should watch this conversation and just like wrap their heads around the implications for our clients. This is pretty cool. I got to jump. Thank you so much, Christian. And it's good to see you. And I'm really pleased we could do this today. More to come. And I'm sure I'll see you online.